You're listening to Grown and Growing with Sonia Hamlin. What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining me. I am so glad to be back. It has been the craziest few weeks. I saw this meme on Friday that said we should cancel April Fool's Day because no prank could outdo what is happening in real life. And that is facts. The world is a dumpster fire. As usual, I think we've come to expect that crazy stuff is just going to happen. But my job, not my career, but my job is also a bit of a dumpster fire right now. And so I am experiencing the things that I've built over the last few years just kind of crumble. So I want to shout out the listeners to this podcast, people who support this podcast, who support me, because working on this podcast gives me the same satisfaction that is equal to the satisfaction that I get from work or my career. I mean, if you've been listening to this podcast, you know that my career is something that is important to me. I've always been ambitious in that way. I get a lot of joy out of going to work, problem solving, and just developing that part of my life. This podcast is the needed distraction and mental stimulation I need to keep going. So thank you. It gives me an opportunity to use my brain in a way that challenges me, that excites me, that scares me. And at work right now, all I feel like I'm doing is putting out fires. And I'm tired of it, actually. So thank you for your support. It means a lot to me. So enough of the chit chat. Let's get into this episode. So the title of this episode, or the focus of this episode, is why you need a tribe. I planned the topics for this podcast well in advance. So I knew that finding your tribe was going to be a topic that I discussed on this day. But I'm always so amazed how God conspires to make things happen in the world that confirm that I'm on the right track. So this has been a crazy week that has made this podcast and this topic more relevant. Let's start with the slap. Yes, I know. I'm talking about Will Smith and Chris Rock. And if you're like me, you are tired of the think pieces, the memes, the jokes, the opinions. It's so multi-layered. Everybody has an opinion on this. I feel like the story is just going to keep unfolding and we're just going to keep finding out things. So I don't think it's over. But what happened between Chris Rock is relevant to finding a tribe, because I feel like if these two people would have had a tribe, right? Maybe he doesn't make that joke on the stage unprovoked and unplanned. Maybe Will Smith doesn't respond by smacking the dog crap out of Chris Rock. I feel like the point of a tribe is to keep you from doing crazy stuff. Now, it don't happen all the time, because clearly Chris Rock made the joke, Will Smith smacked him, and it happened. The tribe is there to hopefully to pull and support both of them to getting back to where they need to be as humans. But it just had me thinking about the importance of the people in your life and who is there to support you. So maybe if they had a strong tribe or a stronger tribe, or was able to go to their tribe to discuss what they're going through, maybe the slap doesn't happen. I don't know. Anyway, the other thing that I've been thinking about as it relates to a tribe is sisterhood, both biological and chosen. A few weeks ago, or I think a couple of weeks ago, Tracy Braxton passed away. We got to know Tracy through the reality show Braxton Family Values, and she passed away. It was very shocking to me. I didn't know she was sick. I don't follow her on social media, so I wasn't up on what was going on in her life. But what was also surprising to me, not just her passing, but how it affected me. I was thinking about that for days and days after. I still do. And I try to think about why, why did that stick with me? And I think it was because, of who Tracy was. She was the most relatable and funniest of the Braxton sisters. And I think a lot of people related to her because she didn't have the polish or the shine that people who are pursuing Hollywood for a very long time kind of have. She was not able to join her sisters on the road a long time ago because she got pregnant and she decided to stay home and raise her family. And she grew up in Maryland, not far from where I'm recording this podcast, actually. And, so I think that gave her the opportunity to just be a regular person. And that kind of shone through on the screen. And it made her relatable, not to just me, but to a lot of people. I know a lot of people were affected by her death. The other thing that stuck with me was how it impacted her sisters. They were such a tight group, such a tight family, that it made me think about my own family. I have 2 sisters. We are as thick as thieves. We are the 3 amigos. I talk to them every day via FaceTime, the best invention ever, because it allows us to stay connected in a way that we wouldn't, because they live in Ohio. I live in Maryland. And I would say we're probably tighter than when we last lived in the same state, which was many years ago before I turned 18. So thinking about Tracy Braxton and her family just made me think about and appreciate the relationships with my own sisters. The other story that had me thinking about sisterhood is the Supreme Court confirmation hearing for Ketanji Brown Jackson. So not the shit show that the Republicans made it out to be, right? They just made it awful, an awful, horrible experience for her. And kudos to Judge Jackson for maintaining her composure under horrible circumstances. But like all Black women who are in that situation, she was able to maintain her composure, keep cool, and get through the situation. Definitely relatable. But I actually want to focus on the testimony of one of her college friends, Lisa Fairfax. So Lisa was testifying on Judge Jackson's behalf, and she's a longtime friend. And there's actually a circle of 4 friends who Jackson befriended when they were first year undergraduates at Harvard University. So they all got to Harvard University. They kind of found each other, these 4 or 5 Black women, and Ketanji was the glue that kind of held them together. So they were there to support them through getting through Harvard University, which I can imagine was probably a very difficult experience without a tribe. I went to a HBCU, so for exactly that reason, but getting through college at a predominantly white Ivy League university, that support was necessary, and Ketanji was the glue that made that sisterhood strong so they can support each other. And they actually applied to Harvard Law School together, and they all got in and continued their bond throughout, the past 30 years of their life, supporting each other. First of all, that is an accomplishment, to meet friends at Harvard University and all get into Harvard Law School together, all have these prominent careers in the legal field, and still be there to support each other is an accomplishment in itself. But her testimony, which you can see online, there's a video of it. She spoke so eloquently about how her sister circle has supported her over the last 30 years. Shout out to the sisters who formed these circles of support so that we may be able to get through this tough life together. To me, this is like the first layer of developing a tribe. It is the base. It is the foundation. Having a sister circle or a set of friends that are dependable, trustworthy, non-judgmental, able to support you no matter what. And just because they support you doesn't mean they justify or condone your behavior. They're just there to help support you through the situation. It is the place where you can go to be 100% yourself and express your feelings. There's no facades there. So shout out to all the sister circles out there being the first line of defense in this crazy world. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about expanding your tribe, because families and friends are important, right? We can't do this thing called life without them. It's essential. But let's not forget about the people who don't fall into that category. So I'm talking about people like mentors and coaches and therapists. Some people call them your personal board of directors or sponsors. So I'm not going to tell you that you need one. I'm just going to say it's not a bad idea, right? That's for you to decide if you want to bring these types of people into your life. But I do want to share how these roles have played an important part of me becoming the person that I am today. But anyway, when I think about how I've incorporated mentors, coaches, and therapists in my life, what's clear to me now that wasn't always clear in the moment was I was always trying to ask the question, how do I want to show up in my life? At work, at home, with my family? How can I work towards being the best version of myself? Having people play these roles in my life helped me tremendously to interpret my feelings, work through my insecurities, help me believe in myself, develop a strategy and a plan for how I'm going to get from point A to point B. They give you tools, the language, the skills, the connections you need to have a leg up in life. Family and friends want the best for you, no doubt. They are there to hold you down and be your cheering squad. But they can also allow fear to hold you back, right? They play, or better yet, they project their fears onto you. And it's well-meaning, but it's not helpful because they want to protect you, right? It's a form of protection. They didn't do it, or they don't know anyone who has done it, or they haven't seen anyone do it. And so it's too risky for them, and therefore it's too risky for you. Not all the time, but that does happen. And sometimes personal relationships, because they have seen you stripped down in every version of yourself, from goofy to inappropriate to sad to happy, they've seen all of these versions of you. And sometimes that can cloud professional advice. It can definitely cloud the type of advice that they give. And then finally, they haven't been trained with either direct experience or formal education to give you the best advice that fits for your goal. So they may not even know how to get you to your goal or how to help you strategize to get there. So it's not a knock on them. It just means that you need to expand your circle to include these people. So let's talk about mentors. And I named this little section Mentors, Real and Imagined, because I don't think that you have to actually know your mentors for them to be a mentor to you. Case in point, Oprah. If you didn't know, Oprah is my ultimate mentor. If you didn't know this about me, now you know. I think that what she has given to the world in terms of how to develop yourself, how to care for yourself, how to care for others, how to just navigate this life outweighs any bad that she has done. And I know, and I actually don't care that she gave us Dr. Phil and Dr. Oz. Yes, they're problematic, but I feel like her good outweighs the bad. So argue amongst yourselves about Oprah. But here's the thing about mentors in my experience. It's interesting because I cannot think of a time where an assigned mentor actually worked for me. So I've done a lot of professional development programs, and some of those programs will give you a mentor so that they can help you through the program. You can ask them questions. These people are available to help you. But for some reason, every time I'm in a situation like that, I do not click with the mentor. I do not get a lot of value. And this has been recent. This has been as far back as grad school. I just never clicked with assigned mentors. The people I've considered mentors in my life have evolved naturally, right? And they're mostly from work. I have colleagues who have become friends who still, to me, hold that mentor space in my life. And they help me and they advise me, not just on my career, but all of those other important decisions that I need to make. Buying a house, getting insurance, getting a will, and all of those, important decisions that you need some help on. They've been there for me. You don't have to pay for mentors at all. And this next piece of advice may be counter to what most people advise, but I don't recommend just coming out and asking someone that you admire to be your mentor. I just don't. To me, it's a relationship that you should try to cultivate without the title. Sometimes the title of mentor can bring a burden with it to the person who is mentoring, because it's a level of responsibility that you take on. And, they're already busy. And so you add this additional thing to their plate. But if you develop the relationship naturally and you're bringing something to the table to them to help them out, or you're not bothersome in the relationship, or you don't have this level of expectation of them, I think it's easier to get more out of them because the relationship doesn't have this pressure. So I would say let this relationship develop slowly over time. Give them the opportunity to get to know you, to get to understand your motivations, and add value to you. And then later, if you guys mutually decide that this is a mentor-mentee relationship, that's great. But you aren't going in first conversation asking them to be your mentor. My most valuable, consistent mentors have been books. They're probably my first mentors in life. I've been an avid reader since I can remember. My mom used to take us to a library every week, and I would come out with stacks of books that I would lock myself in my room and read day and night. It was just the thing that I loved to do most. Here's a little sidebar. Do you remember the first adult book that you read? And I'm not talking about porn. I'm talking about a book that was actually written for adults. My first book that I read that was an adult book was Tina Turner's biography. I know. I was 12 years old. My mom got that book to read herself. And one night I just decided to wake up, sneak her book. I took the little cover off of it, so it was just the black book so I wouldn't ruin the paper cover. And I took the hardback book into my room and read it with a flashlight. So I knew Ike and Tina's crazy relationship at like 12. So I knew the movie was going to be fire because I had already read her biography. So I guess I was tired of Sweet Valley High and Jessica and Elizabeth's shenanigans, and I was ready to move on to more adult conversations. But anyway, I actually came up with a short list of why books make great mentors. The first one is you can find a book on any subject, and you can get various viewpoints. There are hundreds of thousands of books produced every year. So you can have an array of opinions and styles about one single topic. That's awesome. With books, the words speak to you, but they don't talk back. So you can let the words kind of sink into you and think about them, but the books aren't constantly talking to you, right? You don't have to have a conversation with them. The third thing is, if you don't agree or don't like a book, you can just shut it. You can just stop reading. And there's no explanation needed. Number 4, books don't get irritated when you don't take their advice. Do you know people like that, where they get mad at you because you didn't do what they advised? But yeah, books aren't like that. If you're not taking their advice, they're not mad at you. It's fine. And the last one is, you can always go back to the book for information you need, no matter how many times, right? You can go back 100 times if that makes you feel good. And they won't get tired of you. They won't be like, are you asking me the same question again? You don't have these same expectations with books. So think about it. Think about how books have shaped your life and have acted almost as mentors to you. The introvert in me loves books for these reasons. The next level of support I want to talk about in a tribe is a coach. Okay, have you ever thought about getting a coach? You can get a coach for many different areas of your life: financial, life coach, career coach, public speaking, a menopause coach. We actually talked to one in our last episode. I've had two experiences with coaches, and they were both for my career. One was provided to me by my job, and one I sought on my own. So way back when, about 7 years ago, I was promoted to a job with a bigger team, and the department was kind of in shambles, and I had to rebuild this team. I was tasked at going in and fixing all of the problems with this team. So one of the things I asked for during my salary negotiation was for the organization to pay for a coach, because I was like, look, if you're going to stress me out, right, you're going to pay for it. You're going to pay for me to have the support I need to go into this difficult situation. And it was actually a really good experience for me. It encouraged me to lead with empathy and be my authentic self. It was helpful because I was this Black girl going into this mostly white, in fact, it was all white team and all white, mostly white organization to become a leader. And I knew that was going to bring some maybe difficult conversations, some stress, but I'm happy to say that it turned out really well. I learned a lot from that job, and I really like to attribute a lot of my success to starting off with a coach to help me through the really difficult beginning. The second coach I hired was last year because I was laser focused on becoming a vice president. To me, that was the next natural step in my career. And I knew I was VP ready, but my organization wasn't set up for me to be a VP. Like, they knew I was ready to be a VP as well, but the way we were structured, it just wasn't possible. So I decided to get a coach to help me work through the process of becoming a vice president. I had personal goals attached to that VP salary. Like, I wanted it to support some of my personal goals. So I was really invested in becoming a VP. Like, that's what I wanted to work on. That's what I hired you for. That's all we gonna talk about. And it was all good, right? She was helping me resume building, support, LinkedIn, giving me the tools I needed to have great interviews. But then she started asking me about other dreams and goals outside of becoming a VP. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't really want to talk about those. I said, because I was so focused on being a VP, I'm like, why are you asking me about my other goals? I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about this. And my coach is like a dog with a bone. She would not let it go. And I'm like, oh my God. And she's probably actually listening to this. Hi, Deborah. So she is like a dog with a bone and really forced me to focus on other areas of my life that I wanted to develop. And she really held me accountable to the things that I said I wanted, right? It wasn't things that she imposed on me. These are the things that I listed as goals for myself. She didn't let me procrastinate. She was always whipping out her calendar to tie the specific things that I said, the steps that I said, to a date, which was probably what I needed the most. And, she really acted as a coach for me to get me to the place where I said I wanted to be. And so I know there are a lot of coaches out there, but, I can only vouch for my experience with this particular coach. But I'm here to say she's made such a difference in my life. Because I wouldn't be talking on this podcast without her. That's for sure. The other thing is she made me realize that the VP thing wasn't the thing that I really wanted. I was chasing after that thing, and yes, I could get it, and yes, I wanted it, but it wasn't the thing that was going to give me the satisfaction that I was looking for. And because of that relationship with her, it put me on a path that has given me so much more satisfaction than a VP role would right now. So I'm not a VP, but I don't see that as a failure. I see it as an enlightenment. It's like if somebody came and offered me a VP job today, I would take it for sure, but it's not the thing, the title is not the thing that is driving me. So kudos to my coach for getting me to a point where I felt the most satisfied and fulfilled in my life. And it has nothing to do with becoming a VP. The last layer of support I want to talk about is therapy. I'm not going to go in depth in talking about therapy because I feel like that's a whole episode that could be unto itself, right? We could talk about therapy by itself for a whole episode, and I prefer to have an expert, really. Today, I'm just going to talk about my experience with therapy. We live in a world right now where there's a lot of talk about the benefits of therapy, at least on my timelines and the way I've structured my social media. I hear a lot about therapy. There's Talkspace, and there's all these opportunities to meet and develop relationships with therapists. And I think that's great. I do find it ironic that while there's more talk about therapy, the world seems to be getting crazier. There might be a correlation there. I don't know. But yeah, somebody smarter than me should look into that. I was introduced to therapy through marriage counseling. So I didn't go out looking for a therapist to see on my own. It actually developed naturally out of marriage counseling. And I've been going to couples and individual therapy on and off for about 12 years. And the thing about therapy, I think, is that you have to find what works for you. I am not a person who goes to therapy every week. I know there are people who advocate for that and they go every week, and they've been doing that for years. That's not me. I go for big chunks of time when I feel like I need it. So I'll go when I feel like there's something off in my life, or there is a consistent problem that keeps popping up that I can't seem to get through myself. I'll go to therapy for 4-6 months, I don't know, for however long it takes me to work through whatever it is I'm going through. And, you have to find the cadence that works for you. Therapy is hard. Sometimes you come out feeling like you were in a fight and you lost. And while that doesn't sound very helpful, it is necessary. It is necessary to talk about those hard things. Therapy is surprising, right? The things that you uncover and learn, the questions that these people ask, got me like, wow, how'd you make that connection? It is so gratifying and life-changing if you stick with it and apply what you've learned. One of the things that I value most about therapy is that it's given me self-awareness that I didn't have before. There are many times where I went into therapy and the experience has humbled me. I thought I was right about something, particularly with marriage counseling. You go in thinking, oh yeah, I got you this time. And you will talk things through and you will realize the blind spots in your perspective. But you come out feeling so much more enlightened, but you had to be humbled before you got to that point. And so that's the kind of learning and perspective that you get in therapy. To me, there are 3 things to getting the most out of therapy. The first one is finding the right person. This could be difficult. I heard that there's a shortage in therapists because the conversation about therapy is coming up so often in public spaces that there actually aren't a lot of therapists. So this may take a while. It may take a while to not only find a therapist, but find the therapist that connects with you. It may take a few tries to get it right, but once you find the right person, it is definitely life-changing. The second key is to give it time. You can't really go for a few sessions and determine that it's not working. And that's assuming you found the right person, right? It may take you weeks or months to just crack one problem, right? It may take a while to get out of it what you need, but you have to be patient and consistent with it. You have to give it time. And on the flip side of that, when you're trying to find a therapist, I will also say that you have to use your gut, right? If something just feels off and it doesn't feel right, then you need to make a change. It's a very fine line though, because you gotta, be able to ascertain if it's your gut or is it your fear that is keeping you from connecting with this person. It's a very delicate and personal decision that you have to make. I mean, I can't, tell you if a therapist is right for you, but just ensure that you are asking the right question. The final thing is be honest. The reason I like going to one-on-one therapy so much is because I have learned to drop all of the pretenses. I have learned to just say what I honestly feel, whether it makes me look like a bad person or not. It doesn't matter because I know that the person sitting in front of me is not going to judge me for those thoughts. She's actually going to help me work through why those thoughts are there and how I can flip it into something different that is better for me. If you're not honest with your therapist, you ain't gonna never get to the root of why you're there. You're just not. And so you have to consciously be honest with the person you're sitting in front of, as well as yourself. And you will get a lot more out of it. It is very hard because you're often so vulnerable and that brings up its own set of emotions. But after it's all said and done, it allows you to get to the root of the problem much quicker. That's my take on developing a tribe, right? And I kind of, made it like an onion where there are layers to it. There's your sisterhood or your close set of family and friends who are there to support you on a personal and professional level in whatever you do. And then as you go out, there's developing other relationships that are designed to be that type of support for you, that are designed to be your tribe. And that can be your set of mentors that you've developed. That can be coaches that you pay for to support you. And it could be a therapist who is especially trained to help you get through the hard parts of life and become the best version of yourself. Life is surprising and complicated and beautiful and messy. It can be very messy at times. And your family and friends are essential and necessary, but your close family and friends can be biased. They love us, and sometimes they can project their feelings and insecurities and fears on us. I think it's important to try to achieve balance in your tribe. Having your family and friends make up the core of your tribe is great. But having that third-party presence in your life, whether it's a mentor, a coach, or a therapist, can help you process. It can help you make connections, both to people and behaviors in your life. And it can give you the tools you need to kind of construct the life that you want. And yeah, sometimes you got to pay for it, but that's okay because you are worthy and it can also be so worth it. Think about the people in your life that make up your tribe. When is the last time you've reached out to them to tell them how much you love, value, and appreciate their support? If you haven't done that in a while, consider this episode your reminder to do so. Thank you for listening, and I will see you next time.